Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is that time of the week again. It is podcast day, and man, oh man, yesterday was insane. Was absolutely insane, and I can't wait to jump into all things. I have NFL football on the slate just in case we need some filler, but I have a very good feeling that college football will take up the entire time I'm with you guys and gals, so get locked in. Whether you're over here on TikTok, if you're on our Facebook group, if you're on Twitter, if you're on the YouTube, love each and every one of you. Go ahead and give us a follow, give us a like. For those of you listening on the audio, whether you have us in the car or on the treadmill, you guys and gals are the real OGs. Wherever you consume your podcast, give us a follow, give us a 5-star review so that we can cruise right up these sports talk podcast ranks. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into the good shit. I got a couple little bits of news here to go over with you guys and gals. Not a whole lot, but there were some awesome things that happened. I'm not going to dive too deep in on the MLB awards, whether it be, we saw pretty much all of the awards given out from MVP, Cy Young, Coach of the Year, all of that good jazz. But I'm not going to dive into that on this show today. There was a little controversy over one, so we'll kind of scrape the surface on that. But kind of the biggest news to come out, other than what happened yesterday, was Daniel Jones not only was benched, but released. This is a tweet from Ian Rappaport, hashtag Giants quarterback Daniel Jones benched as the starter. He has requested his release. The team is expected to grant it. That would mean Jones would go through waivers, which he is likely to clear because of his contract. At this point, he'll become a free agent. Now, where will Daniel Jones end up? I think it'd be pretty cool. You know, there's murmurings around the internet and around Twitter that how cool would it be if he was a Cowboy and got to play against the Giants on Thanksgiving. That'd be pretty cool. But we did see Cooper Rush played not bad today, so who knows? You know, like I said, it's just a rumor. It's just a rumor, but I honestly think it'd be pretty damn cool. But the other little bit of news I want to kind of go over here real quick is it's about Mr. Paul Skeens. This is from Baseball King over on Twitter. Did Paul Skeens just go on the most dominant 512-day stretch in sports history? Won the College World Series, won the College World Series MVP, gets drafted first overall by the Pirates, relationship with Livy Dunn goes public, called up to the MLB in just 10 months, led the league in ERA, is an all-star in just 11 games, announced as the all-star starting pitcher for the National League, named NL Cy Young Award finalist, and won the NL Rookie of the Year. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue. Dude is living on top of the world. But when it was announced that he was the NL Cy Young Award, or excuse me, the Rookie of the Year, Livy Dunn was more excited than he was. So what does that tell you? I'm not really sure, but we all know Skeens is kind of a cool, level-headed guy. So wouldn't expect too much, fist bumping and just yeah, fucking this is my shit. Didn't really think any of that would be going down, but a little bit of emotion. But that's kind of, like I said, I wanted to kind of scratch the surface on this one to kind of lay the groundwork, because when we talk about the AL and NL awards, really want 2Ks here, and we might be going over these with a very special guest. So keep that. If you have any idea who the special guest might be, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'd love to see who you guys and gals think it might be. Well, 2K crew, let's jump right into college football. Man, oh man, what a bizarre and wild slate it was yesterday. I mean, there were upsets galore. We saw top 25 teams go down one after another, and if you were following along on Twitter, there was a lot of folks that were like, well, why on earth would we need a 12-team playoff, especially this year when there's no good teams? Why would we need 12 of them to enter into a playoff to get to the eventual national champion? I'll give you my thoughts on that as we go along, but there's clamorings to, all right, well, this would be the perfect year to have 16. This would be, and on the complete other hand, does the regular season even matter? We've seen the selection committee. What are they grading on? Are they grading on football performance? Are they grading on obviously wins and losses, but are they weighing any part of strength schedule? There's a lot of things that we don't know. And quite frankly, we don't know because let's be honest, this is the first year of the 12-team playoff format. So a lot of this is unknown territory. We're kind of going off kind of the things that have been in the past, but that was a 4-team playoff. And a lot of the folks on this committee are brand new to the committee. So it's kind of a, wait and see. Leading up to this, we've seen so many people get pissed off that this team's, ahead of this one, this team's ahead of this one. And it only matters in the final ranking. Okay? Only matters in the final ranking. And we got a comment here from Brandon Miller. Brandon says, Ohio State Buckeyes, Georgia Bulldogs go. I'll give you my picks here, kind of going forward. But Brandon, you make a very good point for both of those teams. Both of those teams. As long as both of them, with Georgia, we're going to get to. There's so many 3-loss SEC teams that who knows what the hell's going to happen. So, without further ado, let's jump into all of this. But there is one tweet I did want to share before jumping in. This is from Cutter is King over on Twitter. He points out that Notre Dame has played more games in November at Yankee Stadium than the Yankees have in the past 15 years. Hey-oh, zing. Love it. Absolutely love it. Has really nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but did want to throw that in there. But like I mentioned, here are all the teams that lost. Excuse me. At least the ranked teams. This is from College Football Report. What a day of college football. Number 5, Indiana lost. Number 7, Alabama lost. Number 9, Ole Miss lost. Number 14, BYU lost. Number 15, Texas A&M lost. Number 16, Colorado lost. And number 19, Army lost. The greatest sport on earth. And if you follow our Twitter over on our account over on Twitter, I said basically the same thing. I was like, pretty much, for those of you that don't like college football, I don't understand it. I really don't. Like, I really don't. I don't get what's not to love about it. Because every week stuff like this seems to happen. Every week, once we kind of think we have our a good grasp on what the hell's happening, something completely different happens, or a team that has no business winning wins, and we saw that in particular go down yesterday. With that list of, let me throw that list back up here. With the Indiana loss, you're either going to get number 2 or number 5 losing. So that's kind of a moot point. But the rest of them, Alabama got blown out. Ole Miss got blown out. BYU has been playing these really close games. Lost last week, lost again this week. Texas A&M has been an up and down team. Colorado ran into a buzzsaw. That Kansas team has beat now 3 ranked teams in a row, and had it not be for a very slow start, they would be in this conversation. And Army loses. They were one of the last undefeateds, and so some of these were kind of expected, but then again, there was a lot of these that were not expected. Indiana was an underdog. Army was an underdog. I'm pretty sure all the other ones were favored going into yesterday. But it like I said, it just goes to show you that this is just insane. Excuse me. Hopefully no one blew their eardrums out on that. But let's take a peek more kind of in depth with the SEC here. This is from Stuart Mandrill over on Twitter. 3 top 15 SEC teams went on the road Saturday. One lost 24-17 to a 5-5 team, one lost 27-3 to a 5-5 team, and one lost to a 4-6 team in 4 overtimes. Which I may or may not get to the overtime thing here, 2K Crew, just because I think that's more of a debate for a whole lot of other shows. But keeping with kind of the theme of the show here, but let's take a look at some of these games here. Let's take a look, starting off with the big one, Indiana, Ohio State. Now this was the game that everyone had circled. I mean, for obvious reasons. Game day was there. No, game day was not there. Yeah, they were. Fox's noon game was there. The Big Ten kickoff, or Big Noon kickoff, whatever the hell they're calling it. They were there. This was Indiana's kind of put up or shut up game. With their strength of schedule leading up to this is the only team that they really had on the schedule that was worth a shit. They have no way to kind of back this up, because next week they have, I believe they have Purdue. And Purdue has been terrible. Absolutely terrible. Ohio State cruises to this one 38-15. Now, if you actually look at things, Indiana's special teams was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. They give Ohio State, after a dropped snap to the punter, the ball on like the 4. Next play, Ohio State scores. Fast forward through the game, they give up a punt return. There's 14 points. There's 14 points right there. And I mean, obviously this was a 23-point win, but if those two things don't happen, I'm not saying Indiana wins. I think Indiana shows up better. I think this, because obviously you're taking 14, hypothetically taking 14 points off the board. But when this Indiana team hasn't trailed for that a long amount of time, hell, I think it was up until week 8 or week 9, they hadn't trailed at all through any of the games. So kind of seeing them, I mean, for lack of better terms, they were out athleted, if you want to put it that way. So this brings us to, does a 1-loss Indiana team belong in the playoffs? And I think after that game, you could have an argument to say, no, they don't belong. With their strength of schedule, that 1 loss, there is an argument to be made. Do I agree with it? I do not. But the argument is there. In particular because I as you guys and gals know, I'm a Notre Dame fan. And if you're looking at value, losses and who your team has lost against, the NIU loss to Notre Dame hangs over their head like no other. So to say that loss is kind of insignificant because it happened like week 2, as compared to a top 5, Indiana's ranked 5th and they lose to the number 2 team in the country. Yes, by 23 points is kind of asinine. It's kind of asinine considering going into this, Notre Dame was 6th in the AP poll. So, but as we're going to see moving along here, with all these SEC teams losing when they're not supposed to, this firmly plants Indiana in that playoff, hands down. And I mentioned the AP poll. This is the one from last week. Okay, Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, to round out the top 10. Let's look at the one that was released today. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame, Georgia, Tennessee, Miami, SMU, IU. So IU dropped quite a bit. Whoops. They dropped from 5 to 10 in the AP poll. 5 to 10. Which, if you look at the teams that are ahead of them, I mean, that to me, that is a good spot for them. So if you kind of extrapolate this AP, the top 25, the AP poll to the college football ranking, that should firmly put them in, because that gives way to, like a Boise State or the Power 5, the best of the Power 5s to slide up in one of those spots. So I have a very good feeling that IU will be in. But let's see here. Where do I want to go from here? 2K Crew. Texas handles business against Kentucky, punching their ticket into the SEC title game for the first year, which kind of, I mean, you could honestly say that Texas doesn't belong, as high as they are, because the only team they've really played is Georgia, and they got the doors blown off. Doors absolutely blown off, embarrassed, frankly. So their 1 loss, I mean, it was a convincing and bad loss. So there's an argument there. Now, that's the slide I showed here way too early, but game day is headed to College Station yet again. Open the season at College Station with Texas A&M Notre Dame, wrapping up the regular season at Texas A&M. We're headed to Texas A&M for the showdown between the Longhorns and the Aggies. And wouldn't it be something, 2K crew? Wouldn't it be something if Texas A&M just boat races Texas? I know it's probably not going to happen. I know it's not. Let me see here. I want to bring up some odds here. Let's look at FanDuel here real quick. As a good podcast host, I would have had this brought up by now, but I don't. Let me see if it'll actually let me log in here. Okay. Nope. Okay, let's try this. College football odds this week. See if DraftKings will let me do it. Let's check this. You guys are tither with anticipation here. Well, let's just do this. Saturday. There we go. Okay, Texas A&M is a 7:30 game, and Texas is favored by 5.5. Texas is favored by 5.5. So, kind of a. I honestly didn't even look at that prior to bringing that up, but I would have figured that would have been a much larger spread, especially considering A&M lost this week. But wouldn't it be something? And this is, quite frankly, this is the year where this random wild shit happens. And because there isn't a juggernaut, rewind a couple years to Alabama, Georgia, even, years prior, Clemson. So there isn't that top tier of team, teams that were like those, or even last year with Michigan. There isn't that juggernaut team anywhere to be found. Every team in the playoff or that does make the playoff has some sort of chink in their armor. They're not perfect. You have to roll the ball out every single week because a lot of these teams are falling. A lot of these teams are tripping to the finish line. So that, to me, that's what makes it awesome. That's what makes it awesome. Minnesota almost gets a big upset over number 4 Penn State. Penn State hangs on to win 26-25. And here is yet another argument. And one, quite frankly, if you're Penn State, you're absolutely cool with. You are absolutely cool with. And what I mean by that is, if you think about this, okay, if we bring this AP top 25 up again, if the play, because this is rivalry week, this week, next week is conference championship week. So the Big Ten, the teams that will be playing in that, Oregon, Ohio State. So Oregon, Ohio State has a loss against Oregon already this year. One would think that even a 2-loss Ohio State team would still remain in the college football playoff. And if you're Penn State, you're just sitting back going, all right, boys, you have it out. You boys have it out. We're most likely going to host a college or a playoff game here at Happy Valley. So you guys go do your thing. We'll just sit back and we'll just do our thing. A Penn State team who has played only pretty much one good opponent and lost to Ohio State at home. Lost at home bad. And you almost get tripped up by a Minnesota team who's barely bowl eligible. I mean, let's call a spade here. PJ Fleck and his boys are rolling the boat in a circle. They're not going forward. They're not quite going backwards because they're bowl eligible. They're just going in a damn circle. So either he for years he's needed to equal out the rowers on both sides instead of just on one and going in a circle, because he's getting nowhere over there in Minnesota. Notre Dame takes care of business against Army at Yankee Stadium, 49-14. This was an absolute ass beating from the jump. Notre Dame goes up 14-0 almost in the blink of an eye. Army cannot do anything offensively. Notre Dame can pretty much do whatever they want offensively. And like I said, as a Notre Dame fan, these games scare the absolute shit out of me. Anytime we play a service academy, on paper should be an extremely easy win. If you're looking at the athletes that Notre Dame has compared to the athletes, and this is no disrespect to our men and women service members, not at all. When we're talking just specifically athletes, Notre Dame should win 98% of the time, 99% of the time. And there were a lot of, this was, I believe, a 14-point spread, and it never even got closer than that. No, excuse me, it was an 11-point spread. And for those of you keeping score at home, Notre Dame outscored Navy and Army combined 100-28. 100-28. So this is a big win in a must-win game. And let's be honest, going into the Navy game, Navy was undefeated and ranked in the top 25. They have since fallen off, but again, Coach Freeman and the boys beat a ranked opponent. Army being ranked number 19 heading into this, again, did the same exact thing. And the one thing I have to say is kudos to Army's quarterback. That dude got demolished over and over and over and over again. And he just kept popping back up. He kept doing his thing. I think he carried the ball like 38 times, which is asinine, completely asinine. But kudos to him. Kudos to that team for playing all 60 minutes. And, this is a game where, like I said, Notre Dame needs to win out. They're going to USC this coming week or on Saturday. So it's one of those, if they win, they should get in. But yeah, that was an awesome game to watch. And my second takeaway of this is when did we stop showing excuse me, when did we stop showing the singing at the end of these games? For those of you that don't know, when Notre Dame plays a service academy, at the end of the game, both teams sing the alma mater of each school, standing in front of the student section. And if you win, your team sings last. And that's the motivation, is you want to sing last. And both times this season against Navy and now against Army, the TV, they just said this really isn't necessary. And especially in a game like this was the 100th year anniversary of Notre Dame playing Army at the Polo Grounds. So that was the reason why it was the Shamrock Series game. That was the reason why this was on the schedule this time of the year. And for them to just bypass that, I really don't understand that. Really don't understand. But that's a Notre Dame fan gripe. You guys probably don't give a shit unless you are a Notre Dame fan. So won't bore you with any more of that. We get to one of the big upsets here, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on one sec. Alabama going to Oklahoma. Oklahoma was 5-5 going into this. A very lackluster season for Boomer Sooner, but this Oklahoma defense came to play, and Alabama was winning 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. After that, didn't even score a touchdown, obviously, because it's 24-3. But one of the big things I want, my big takeaway on this was Oklahoma's defense containing Jalen I got a lot of hate on that. It's Jalen, not Jaden. Excuse me, Alabama fans. Jalen Milroe. His passing line, 11 for 26, 164 yards, and three picks, excuse me. QBR of 15.4. Now, where he had absolutely dominated and decimated teams prior to Oklahoma was in the run game. He was basically a one-man wrecking crew when it came to the running game. This week he had 15 carries for 7 yards. So basically what Oklahoma said was, all right, Jalen, you're going to have to beat us running, because that's that's been your main weapon so far. We trust our corners. We're going to load the box. We're going to force you to beat us. And he looked terrible. And this is a tweet from Nicole Auerbach, which I just found her account last night. And if you guys and gals do not follow her, give her a follow, because she is an amazing, amazing follow. She says, a couple of Alabama notes. Fewest point in any game since 2004. 20-3 loss to South Carolina. Team coached by Lou Holtz. Largest regular season loss since 2023. 24-point loss to LSU. Team coached by Nick Saban. But just to kind of put this loss into perspective, this wasn't just a normal loss for Alabama. The scoring, 24-3, yes, 3-score game. I get it. But if you actually watched any of this game was an absolute beatdown. Oklahoma took Alabama out to the woodshed and just demolished them. This game wasn't even close. And kudos to Oklahoma, because this was basically an elimination game for Alabama. Every game for Alabama, starting, when they lost their second game, it was win or go home pretty much. And Oklahoma was like, no, see ya. Pack them bags. No postseason for you. No playoff for you. And for the Alabama fans that are saying, oh, DeBoer's got to go. They're like, this is going to be the best team he's ever going to have. And if he can't win with this team, because a lot of most of these guys were Nick Saban recruits, he's got to go. Calm down. You're trying to tell me that one of the best coaches in the country, you're not even going to give him a year. You're not going to give him his recruiting class. After 11 games, you're like, nope, out, get the fuck out. This guy stinks. Alabama fans, I get it. You guys and gals have been spoiled with Nick Saban for how many years? I get it. And to think that Coach DeBoer is just going to walk in and have the same success that Saban had, it's kind of asinine to think, especially considering how many of those kids transferred out. Yes, there was still a ton of Saban recruits there. I get that. Milroe being one of them. But let's pump the brakes a little bit. I think you guys and gals are overreacting just a tad. Miami takes care of business against Wake Forest, punches their ticket into the ACC championship game. And another SEC team goes down to Florida. Ole Miss gets, 24-17. I mean, this Florida team is gritty, 2K crew. This Florida team is gritty. It is gritty. That swamp was rocking, and I love it. College football is better when Florida is relevant. It is just amazing. And in TikTok, I thank you for the hearts, whoever's showing those. Big shout out to you. The phone's too far away for me to actually see who's doing that, so big shout out. But yeah, big win. And again, this was another elimination game for Kiffin and the boys. Is there going to be a 3-loss SEC team in this college football playoff? That's the big question. And 2K Crew, you're going to be seeing this on all of the networks. All the networks. In particular, if you watch ESPN, Paul Feinbaum's head was probably exploding last night. Just, I guarantee the gears were grinding about how he could, finagle this and how he could, make an argument for one of these 3-loss SEC teams. But I personally don't think it's happening. I really don't. And in a year where there isn't, like we talked about, those top tier untouchable teams, you would think that it would be possible for a 3-loss SEC team to get in there. I don't think so. Because for one, the losses that a lot of these SEC teams are getting are from far less competitive teams. Ole Miss, I guarantee, was at least a 7-point favorite in this game. And to lose 24-17, I mean, if you're an Ole Miss fan, was this Lane Kiffin being Lane Kiffin? I don't know. Possibly. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I'm sure if we went schedule by schedule or week by week and actually plotted these losses by Ole Miss, by Alabama, there are going to be some losses to ranked teams. But when you have the losses against ranked teams, combined with losses of unranked teams, that's when that elimination happens. In my opinion. Let's see. Tennessee takes care of UTEP 56-0. Boise State squeaks out one against Wyoming, who had some awesome unis. Wyoming had some badass unis. They win 17-13. And let me bring up this Heisman. This is from FanDuel Sports. Heisman odds at the beginning of today, which was yesterday. Travis Hunter minus 333. Ashton Jeanty plus 400. After today's game, Travis Hunter minus 950. Ashton Jeanty plus 850. Now, what does really all that mean? Because let's be honest, Jeanty had 169 yards and a touchdown. However, Travis Hunter, I believe, had 2 touchdowns last night or yesterday. Granted, in a Colorado loss. Excuse me. But I think there was a lot of there's a lot of talk about the Heisman being a popularity contest. And I don't know where the hell these people have been living that are trying to just now coming to the realization that it is a popularity contest, especially when it's not a quarterback that's projected to win or favored to win. Of course it is. And when you're looking, there's been the argument, if you take Travis Hunter off of that Colorado squad, they still win some games. If you take Ashton Jeanty out of that Boise State team, they don't win many games. And I can't argue with that logic. I really can't. Jeanty does account for most of their offense. Travis Hunter doesn't account for most of their offense or defense, put it that way. But I think the one thing that Hunter has going for him is kind of the the Shohei Ohtani effect, if you want to think about it that way. Offense and defense, and plays both of them at a very high level. And we kind of talked about it last week, where whichever team drafts him, in the NFL, he's not going to play both ways, unless, of course, for some injury or something unforeseen. But they're going to make him focus on one, or at least in my opinion, that's what's going to happen. So whether it's receiver, corner, we'll save that for more for later down on the road. But Arizona State beats BYU. BYU goes down for the second time in 2 weeks, 28-23. This Arizona State team is flying around. So BYU, like I said, goes down for the second straight week. Auburn upsets number 15 Texas A&M. We kind of talked about that. That was, again, another elimination game. Now, can they play spoiler this week against Texas? We shall see. We shall see. And Kansas takes care of business against number 16 Colorado. And the one thing I do want to point out here is Devin Neal. Devin Neal for Kansas. This dude. Ooh, buddy. I have a feeling if Boise State was playing Colorado yesterday, he probably would have ran for 500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Because Devin Neal carried the ball 37 times for 207 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Also led the team in receiving with 4 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. So that's 287 yards of all-purpose offense for 4 touchdowns. It seems like he himself beat Colorado. Shedeur has 266 in 3 touchdowns. Travis Hunter has 8 catches, 125 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So just that, like I said in the open, that Kansas team is on fire. They between them and Notre Dame, those 2 teams might be the 2 hottest teams in college football right now. That's kind of all the recap I wanted to do, but let's take a quick peek at where these teams stand as far as conferences go, and we'll kind of see who's going to be playing in what conference title game. So let's take a peek at the SEC first. Okay, and I will be the first to admit I have not gone down the road of tiebreakers or anything like that. But let's see here. Okay. And what kind of makes this kind of a toss-up 2K crew is this, like I said, this is rivalry week. Man, that is hard to say. We already talked about Texas going to Texas A&M. They're sitting atop the SEC at 6-1 in conference play. If the season ended today, it'd be them and Georgia in the SEC title game. Texas has already punched their ticket, I believe, and I honestly think that one's going to go to chalk. Texas and Georgia play for the SEC title. Let's go to the Big 12. This one is the one that's all kinds of screwy. All kinds of screwy. Because we have 4 teams that are 6-2 vying for 2 spots in the Big 12 title game. Iowa State it's Iowa State, BYU, Arizona State, and Colorado. Now let's take a peek here at who they play next week. So let's not do that. Trying to do this so I can see the screens. You guys are riveted by my silence. Iowa State plays Kansas State. Iowa State's only a 2.5-point favorite, so that could be a squeaker. And again, a better host would have already had this locked and loaded, but I'm not a better host. Arizona State at Arizona. Arizona State's a 9-point favorite, so Arizona State likely going to wrap that up. But like I said, this has been anything but the normal year here, 2K crew. I have a feeling none of these games are at noon. We're looking for Colorado. And again, this would be awesome if 2Ks was here so he could talk and I could look at this. But regardless, it's this one's bananas. This one is utterly bananas. And if I had to pick 2, give me Arizona State and Iowa State. Give me those 2 to play for the Big 12 title game. Let's go to the ACC. That's not right. SMU and Clemson lead the way. SMU 7-0 in conference. Clemson 7-1. Miami 6-1. And it's kind of shocking to think that Clemson has kind of flown under the radar for the most part all season, yet they could still play in the ACC title game. Now, mind you, we talked about the Big 12, and before we move on from the Big 12, there's only going to be one Big 12 team in the college football playoff. Only one. ACC, I feel the exact same way. Only one team. And let's take a peek here again. Is this it? Nope. Just do this. Week 14. This is actually what I wanted last time. South Carolina goes to Clemson. Where's the spread here? Clemson's 2.5 point favorite. Clemson's a 2.5 point favorite. Wow. Ohio State is 20.5 point favorite. Oof. Ouch. Colorado plays Oklahoma State. Colorado's 16.5 point favorite. So still an outside shot. Still an outside shot to get to that title game. Still, I mean, there's, again, probably a lot of tiebreakers and stuff that I really don't have time nor the energy to kind of dive into. But still, like I said, Big 12, one team. ACC, I have to believe, still with one team. Let's see. Clemson, South Carolina. Miami plays Syracuse. Miami's a 10.5 point favorite. SMU plays Cal. SMU's 13.5 point favorite. Okay. So this is one where I think it's going to be SMU Florida, or excuse me, SMU Miami. I just have that sneaking suspicion. But like I said, again, all of the tiebreakers and shit, I have no idea. But long story short, only team getting into the playoff is the champion of the ACC. There's not going to be multiple. There's not going to be multiple bids here. Let's go to the Big Ten. Big Ten, I already said it. Yeah, I already kind of hinted at it. This is going to be an Oregon Ohio State game. Just all things lead to that. All things lead to that. So I'd be very shocked if that doesn't happen. However, here's where the fuckery, if you want to put it that way. Oregon obviously is in. Ohio State, if they beat Michigan and then go to the title game, even if they lose to Oregon, I believe is still in. Penn State is still in. Indiana is still in. So I don't think those four teams, there's unless Penn State lays an egg this coming weekend. If Indiana somehow, the hangover from the Ohio State game leads into the Purdue game on Saturday, which I highly doubt. But I still firmly believe those four teams are in, regardless if Ohio State gets a second loss to Oregon. So I stand pat on that. Now let's flip over to the SEC. We talked about Texas v. Georgia. I still think Texas, Georgia, Tennessee. I think those three teams are in. I think those three teams are in because I firmly believe Texas will beat Texas A&M, giving A&M their third loss, along with South Carolina, Ole Miss, Alabama, Missouri, LSU, and those are losses in conference. Let me put it that way, because LSU overall is 7-4. But there's not going to be a 3-loss SEC team in this. There really isn't. There really is not going to be a 3-loss SEC team. Let's be realistic. Speaking of those 3-loss teams, this is from FanDuel Sportsbook. Ranked college football teams with 3 losses. And this was prior to yesterday. Number 7, Alabama. Number 9, Ole Miss. Number 16, Colorado. Number 18, South Carolina. Number 23, Missouri. Number 25, Illinois. Should any of these teams be in the college football playoff? No. No, I firmly, unless, like I said, on the outside chance that Colorado somehow sneaks into that Big 12 title game and wins. But I don't think there's any of these other teams that have that ability to get into their conference title game. I really don't. Like I said, Colorado has possibly an outside chance, but if that outside chance isn't there, like I said, with all the tiebreakers and stuff, then no. And for someone that I would love to see Colorado in the playoff, absolutely love it. But if you look at that, that Colorado team from last year to this year, drastic improvement. They landed the number two prospect for next year. So that transition from Shedeur to, I believe his name is Juju Watkins or Wilkins, that's going to be kind of a TBD. But for those of you that are Colorado fans, just pump the brakes a little bit. Pump the brakes a little bit. 2 years ago, you won one game, and now we're arguing if you should be in the college football playoff. So calm down. Let's see, what is this one here? And like I started the show, there are so many people that, this is from Danny Cano. Where are all the people who said playoff expansion would make the regular season meaningless? Good point, Danny. Great point. Because we're seeing some of the best college football I can remember in a long time. I mean, I'm ecstatic. I absolutely love watching every week, watching the pandemonium, watching the chaos. I mean, this is the unknown in the chaos is one of the reasons why all of us love March Madness. I mean, look at how much revenue it comes off that one tournament. I guarantee there's more people that pay attention to that tournament that aren't basketball fans just because they like to fill out brackets. They like it. They like to do stuff like that. And we all want the chaos when it comes to that. And we're getting to see this, twice. And this is a lot more drawn out. I mean, we're not talking like 4 weekends here. This is an entire season. And all the ups, all the downs, the roller coaster. This is what makes college football awesome. Even if your team isn't in the mix, you still look at your, the conference that your team plays in, the overall rankings, who's losing, who's winning. This is what makes it awesome. And I will stand by my tweet that I put out yesterday that college football is one of the best sports ever. And I think there's two mindsets here that, especially when it comes to the playoff expansion as well as the conference realignment. And I think once they get especially with the conference realignment, after they've been through a couple of these seasons with the new schedule, we're going to see a more balanced schedule. Now, granted, you're not going to see a team like Indiana, play this week of a schedule every year. And on the flip side, you're not going to see a team like Michigan play this tough of a schedule every year. But at the end of the day, first of all, you have to remember ebbs and flows. Yes, there are what you would call quote unquote dynasties, your Nick Sabans, your Alabamas, your Georgias, insert team name here that do have more consistent winning as compared to some of a team like Indiana. This is Cignetti's first year, and I think that he's done a phenomenal job. Do I expect them to be perennial powerhouses from here on out? It's going to be damn hard to keep this type of momentum, this type of record year in and year out, especially in the Big Ten, especially with all of the, Michigan looks to be on their way back next year. Ohio State is Ohio State. Oregon looks to be just a complete badass. I do expect USC to at least be a little bit more competitive, and even throw teams like Nebraska and Wisconsin and some of those, not your traditional powerhouses, but the teams that we kind of expect to be good year in and year out, be respectful, be, not a pushover. And if you add that into, I think that's one thing that will work itself out, is the lack of consistency when it does come to schedules. And that goes for the SEC as well. Because we're, again, Texas, their schedule, I guarantee Bama or Georgia would be like, yes, please, we want that. We want that. Give Texas this, but we've been here longer. We've been here longer. We deserve this one. This is us. I mean, if you look at who Texas has played and who Georgia and Alabama and some of these other teams have played, I guarantee they'd be like, yes, please give us Texas's schedule. Please, 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 please. So that for everyone who's freaking out, just calm down. Like I said, this is year 1 of the 12-team playoff. And I think it's the perfect time for the 12-team playoff, just because there is so much uncertainty from week in to week out. There's been years where it hasn't been that. It hasn't been that at all. Even with the 4-team playoff. Remember all of the clamorings around that 4th spot, where we saw Nick Saban throw a fit because he thinks his Alabama team should have been in there. And then there's been years where he's gotten that 4th spot and really probably shouldn't have been there, and went on to win. Same with Urban Meyer at Ohio State. So it's not perfect, but I think it's better than the 4-team. Am I a proponent of the 16 team? No. This is where it needs to stop. Because once you get into that 16 team realm, then you're and you might be saying to yourself, well, Turbo, you just said that the March Madness is the best because we get all of these Cinderella teams and the upsets and this and that. Yeah, I do. I love that. But I'm curious to see these quote unquote Cinderellas, how far they would actually go. Or would it just be a complete and utter blowout? And yes, some of the 16 V1s in that March Madness pool, 9 times out of 10, all but 1 time in history, have been absolutely beatdowns. Yes, they have. So I think 12 is about the perfect number. I love the fact, and one of the things that gets me going so much is the hosting of a playoff game. To me, that is awesome. To me, that is utterly awesome. I cannot wait. Now, there were some rumors, which are completely false, but did Alabama lose so they wouldn't have to go to South Bend and play in the weather? No. I don't think that was the case. I don't think that was the case at all. But that's what I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see not only these warm weather teams come to cold weather places, but also a lot of the cold weather places are the history-laden, tradition-laden campuses. You look at, I believe Penn State was hosting one. Notre Dame was, this is all going back to last week's, which everything's going to switch again this week. But you're looking at places where a lot of people have on their college football fans have on their bucket list to go watch a game. And rewinding to a couple weeks ago when I was talking about how much bullshit it was that these Fox games are at noon, these games would be prime time. Give me prime time games. A playoff game in Happy Valley, a whiteout, would be a beautiful scene. An absolutely beautiful scene. Now, I get it. Once you move on to the next round, that's when your bowl games start. That's when they're neutral sites. I get that. But to me, that's the most exciting part. That's the most exciting part. Now, my question is, and this is for all the College Game Day crew, is it how are you going to pick like the best matchup for that weekend? How's the College Game Day selection going to happen? That's another thing I'm honestly curious about. Just a thought. I know we're putting the cart before the horse here, 2K crew, because we still have rivalry week and then conference championship week. I get that. There's still plenty of football before we get to those playoff games. And there's going, for all of us that sat here and were bitching about this team over that team last week, well, there's going to be a whole lot of other bitching on Tuesday. And I, for one, can't wait. I can't wait. Again, this is what gets me pumped up. This is why, getting back to the whole, it's going to make the college football regular season worthless or pointless. No, we're seeing each and every one of these games becoming more and more important. And that's what makes it awesome. That's what makes it awesome. Well, 2K crew, I think I'll get you out of here on that. Everyone have a great week. And yes, it is Thanksgiving week. We're going to try it. Pretty sure we'll have a show on Sunday. Pretty sure. 2Ks hopefully will be back from Minnesota. But everyone have a great Thanksgiving week. Remember, on Thursday, it's not about what's on the table, but who's around it. Love all your loved ones, because you never know. Tomorrow is not promised. But everyone have a great and blessed Thanksgiving. I will see you all next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.